Oops. Ha, how about that? I did it again. Here we go. Here's my intro. Coming right now, even though you know I'm already here. Here we go.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with two T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Well, hey, folks, welcome to the program tonight. This is Scotty Roberts. I'm your host, and of course, this is my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. And I want to say welcome to everybody who is here right now. And you're also listening or watching the simulcast, whichever the case may be, over on my YouTube channel. And if you're not there right now, be sure to go over and check it out. That's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. So come on over and watch the show, enjoy the show. And folks, if you're not a member of this show already, why don't you go ahead and make yourself a member? I would love to have you become a member of the program, remember, a member of this channel, and you can do that by clicking on the little join button down below. And that join button is going to pop up an extra window, which you can look at while the broadcast is going on. It's not going to cut into the broadcast. And you can see just how you can become a member of this program, 3 different ways. And I would appreciate that. And hopefully you will too once you become a member. And anybody else who's here a member, you can ask them how unintrusive it is. And we do have some premiums, which involve extra broadcasts. It involves doing some ghost hunting broadcasts live on site. It involves the morning coffee show. Some of you have been there, some of you have not. We'll see if we might even be able to do one tomorrow morning. So be ready for that, because it would be around 7 a.m. Central Time, which makes it 5 a.m. out on the East Coast, makes it 8 a.m. out East. And if you can make it in, come on in. We'll have a little coffee chat. And so, once again, thank you for being here. Master Finn, good to see you. Yes, the Just a Lousy Cup of Coffee, Matt Finn. Have you not been able to catch that yet? I know at the very beginning of that, it's not every day. It's every now and then we do those. But when we first started it, YouTube wasn't getting the message out to the members. And so I'd have to open it up almost right away to the general public so everybody knew it was there and it was going on. So I'll try to get an alert out there. So be ready around 7 a.m. tomorrow, 8 a.m. out East. 5 a.m. if you're up that early on the left coast. And, of course, that would be what? About somewhere between 9 and noon in Australia for my Australian listeners. And, of course, the other direction out in England would be 6 hours later. So that would be, roughly 1 p.m. So there you go. And so greetings, everyone. David Castle, greetings to you. Good to see you. And Steve Clark, good to see you out there in Kansas. Good to have you here tonight, brother. I hope you're drying out a little bit We got a little bit of rain a couple of days ago up here. Started to green just a little bit, all the dead stuff out there. And so we've been watering the gardens. While Rainy's gone, I've been watering her gardens, and full of daylilies and sunflowers and all kinds of other things. Her herb garden. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No. It's actual herbs. Although once we looked out there and we had a 2-foot tall marijuana plant. Now, we're not sure where that came from because we don't smoke it. And at least not here. And so it grew in a pot out on the front deck last summer. So that was interesting. We gave it to Rocky. He nurtured it and put it under some indoor growing lights. So I don't know what the end of that story is. So you'll have to ask him about that. Michelle Canham Free, good to see you. Let's see, watering her garden sounds like a euphemism. But ching! Speaking of the Alaskan the Alaskan Rainy Nanook of the North now these days. She won't be home till Sunday, but she sent me a couple of pictures. Some of you have seen them over on my Facebook. I'm going to share my screen with you, so those of you who have not seen these are going to be able to see them. I'm going to go over here. Boom. There's Rainy. That's one of the 3 salmon that she caught out in the river there. And I think that must be their limit, because she said she caught 3, and she said that was her limit. So here, I got to move that so I can see the chat room at the same time. And so there's Rainy, all dressed up in her waders. They wade out there, and yeah, they have fishing poles and stuff, but they caught some of them with their hands too, just like the bears out there. So, I think my sound is screechingly high. I'm going to back that off a little bit. I just saw it up in the red from just simple talking. And so there she is. This is one she sent me today. Boom. Doing Alaskan aerobics. And I think that probably would have been Alaskan aerobics a little better if she was like holding a Molson in her hand or something like that, or moose beer, blue moose or something like that. So there she is. That's my beautiful wife up in Alaska, and then this was right afterwards. I got to tell you, I'm a guy. I'm a red-blooded American male. I am still in awe of my wife all the time. Even when she's mad at me and I'm mad at her and blah, 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 all that stuff going on. One of the first things I noticed about her, of course, everything, and I mentioned this the other day when we were talking about attraction and laws of attraction and so on. When I first really met her in earnest back 16 years ago, she was walking into the pub with a friend of hers, and she was wearing not a bustier. She keeps correcting me. It was just a tube top of some kind, and a shorty sweater, one of the little sweaters that come down to the rib cage and the long sleeves, pushed up a little bit, black sweater, and she had this gorgeous mane of hair, dark brunette hair. And so there you see her now, that hair, she still got it. And then her eyes, of course, and of course everything else that comes with her body was very appealing. But that's the hair right there. So there she is up in Alaska. Again, Alaskan aerobics and catching salmon. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to get off of this and stop the screen share and go back to this. And so there she is. She's having a great time. And she won't be back until Sunday of this week. And hopefully she will be relaxed. I think she's looking pretty relaxed up there. She's having a great time. And she said she's bringing home about 30 pounds of salmon. She's packing that in dry ice in a cooler and bringing that home. So that's happening too. And she already sent me a link for this big dinosaur exhibit going on at the Minnesota Children's Museum. And she said, we should go to this. when she gets home. So we're going to probably go to that sometime in August. Take a look at that. Let's see. Steve Clark said, Rainey said that I can come up there Monday to have fish with you. Outstanding. Yeah, come on up. Come on up, Steve. Let's have fish. Uncle Dave Potter is going to come over and do his gourmet thing with the salmon. If you didn't know this, Dave, if I haven't mentioned this, Dave, amongst many other things, is a gourmet chef. He's been working at getting a restaurant started lately, and an Italian restaurant, a smoked Italian type of stuff. So, Mike Yehudi, good to see you, brother. And Matt Finn, if I didn't say hey to you first, welcome, Master Finn. Master Finn, you got a point there. Those kids will probably make short work of the relaxation within the first half a day. It's going to be life back to normal for her. So I'm hoping she's soaking up all the relaxation and fun she can while she's up there. And, of course, the kids keep calling her during the day. Not that the kids shouldn't call her, but you got to figure, when she's up there to relax, at least the kids have gotten off of calling her with their problems to tattle and stuff like that. That was the first few days, and I put a kibosh on that. So Matt says, I sound like a guy who misses his wife. Yeah, I kind of miss her. It'll be nice to have her home, but I'm glad she's enjoying herself as well. I think that's good. I thought I saw a Field Guy in here. There he is, Field Guy. Good evening to you, brother. Good to have you here. Corey Blake, good to see you, brother. And by the way, lest you think, I know people say, oh, your wife went to Alaska. You guys must be rich. We are not. She got a flight for about $450, I think. And she's been staying up there with her sister and her sister's kids. Her sister's husband is deployed with the Air Force right now. They're stationed up there. And so that's what she's been doing up there, just having a good time, hanging with family, and getting out in the wilderness a bit, as you can see by the fishing and all of that. And so when I asked her if she wanted me, I said, why don't you stay another week? I want to see you get fully relaxed, have a good time, have more of a good time. And so as I had mentioned before, I looked into getting her a ticket. She looked in and she goes, to extend my flight out would be $670 to extend her stay on top of a $450 ticket. And I thought, that's ridiculous. And I said, you know what? Just don't show up for your flight. Let's get you a new flight. I found a flight for like $115. And so we got an extra week for her up there. And so that's going to be good. It's going to be good that she has the time. Hey, Barbie D, good to see you. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Sometimes it does. I think it does in this case. Let's see. I thought about the piece, but went hand wave. Oh, I got you, Mad Finn. So, let's see. Who else is in here? David Castle. Good to see you as well. And Teresa. I don't think I said hey to Teresa yet. Welcome to the show, Teresa. Glad to have you here tonight. Susie Q, Mike Yehudi, Michelle Canham Free, McFreedom. And, of course, everybody else I've already said hi to. And so welcome to the show. Very soon. Elderberry, good to see you as well. I'm just scrolling through, seeing who all is here, who I may have missed in the intro here. And Corey, it's so good to see you here. I'm glad you're here. You usually don't make it till a little later in the show. It's nice to see you right at the very beginning. It's good to have you here. Did I see Delaney is here as well? Hey, Delaney. Good to see you. Let's see. And I think that might be it for who's showing their face. Mandy Moo. Good to see you down there in Australia. Down under. Crikey. And so it's good to have you in here as well. And yeah, it has been an interesting, let's see, Rainey's been gone as of yesterday, as of today, gone for 2 weeks. And she's got one more, almost a full week She'll be up there till Sunday. So it's been an interesting time. My agent called me about working on some book stuff and a couple of other clients. And I just say, and I'm a little bit, not behind. I just hadn't touched a little project she gave me. And she said, can you hit that? And I said, of course I can. I said, it's just been wild here. I say, Rainey and I are here all the time, but taking care of 3 kids during the summer months when they're home all day long, there's an interruption every 5 to 10 minutes, literally. Dave Potter, he's there in the chat room. Just ask Dave Potter. Dave Potter is, he came because I did that little wedding on Saturday. He came and watched the kids, and so he has an idea what it gets like around here. And so it's always good to have Uncle Dave there. Let's see. So I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh, but it gets wild around here. Just one thing to another, to another, to another. Now, Flynn has gone at Boy Scout camp this whole week. So that lops one child off for the week. But he's pretty low maintenance anyway. Rowan, for a couple of days, went and spent the whole day at her friend's house. They went to the pool and stuff, and she spent the night, things like that. So it was pretty much Ellery and me all day for the last 2 days especially. I feel a little bad for her that she gets bored out of her skull. But we do have John and Bree across the street who their little girl comes over and plays. They play together. Ellery's got friends, but I can't just let her hop on her bike and ride around at 6 years old. It's just not my thing. I don't think that's a good idea these days. Hey, Robert V., good to see you as well. Welcome into the program. Those of you sitting out in the outskirts of the show tonight, just watching, you can come on into the chat room if you'd like. You can make your presence known, say hi to everybody. Everybody will make you feel welcome. You know, my son, Sam, you all know Sam, the leprechaun Sam. He's doing pretty well. He put up a post today, just a meme thing that said something like, when you're either not honest or not straightforward, or all you're doing is pushing for numbers, your friends list can be huge, but it's insincere. And then he said, when you have smaller numbers, sometimes you can, Dave Potter, you saw that post. I think you even commented on it. He said, you can see that you've got genuine people. Now, this show, you'd think I'd be up in the 40 to 50,000 followers. I'm not. We're still over 1,000. And all of you, however, are the faithful listeners. You are the core. You are here every night, and you are quality. That's what makes this show kind of fun, and I appreciate all of you. Arcturian Starchild at Dave Potter. Namaste to you, buddy. Hey, Arcturian. Do I know who you are? I don't recognize if you've been here. If you've been here before under that name, I've probably seen you before. If I've seen that name before and forgotten, sorry about that. So Michelle Cannon-Free has a phone. She's on the phone. So anyway, to all of you, there we go. We're 19 minutes into the show, and we're just getting through with our greetings and initial stuff. So I want to thank you for all being here. And tonight, we're going to continue talking about Christo-Paganism. What the hell is Christo-Paganism, you ask, if you haven't caught on yet? It is kind of this blending of two faiths, and I can't say that I would out and out call myself a Christo-Pagan. Now, Dave Potter and I, we had some discussions about this stuff over the weekend, some talks. We talked to Ruben Fasthorse together a little bit over the phone while Dave was over here, and there is a little bit of something, and I think Dave kind of gave a positive acknowledgement that yeah, we're all kind of in that boat right now. This group of people that we know, meaning Dave and a couple of other friends of ours and Ruben and so on. And so while I've never really come out and said that's what I am, here's the big question. Now, you know this. When you start uninculcating yourself from organized religion, say you grew up in the Christian church, whatever denomination you were, or you grew up Jewish, or you grew up something else, and you walk away from that faith. If you grew up Muslim and you walk away from that faith, you can't always eliminate everything or eradicate everything. You still hold on to certain things. And like with me, if you're anything like me, when you do that, the old tendrils will sometimes come up and grab you and say, oh man, today we're going to talk about sin and salvation, good and evil. There's going to be some things in there that fly flat in the face of my old denominational religion, my old training. And I was so deeply inculcated into that saying, I think there's got to be a better way. There's got to be something more. You know what happens when you do that? You fight with that. There's guilt that comes up. Guilt that says, I'm doing the wrong thing. Extrication, Michelle Canham-Free says, exactly. And so when you've gone longer. I did a 19-minute rant once, says Field Guy. Yeah, I do sometimes go longer with my rants. But, hey, Ryan Gale, good to see you. Ryan Man. And so when you do this, when you think intellectually, I need to step out of what I've been in. There's something different than what I've been taught. There's something not necessarily new, or maybe it's very old, as is with mysticism and paganism and so on. But when you step away from that, there's going to be, it's not usually a clean cut that like, I'm moving over into this, because you spent your whole life. I spent 40 to 50 years in this before I stepped away from it. And so you're always dealing with all the new information for you to say, I think rather than just look at this and let it tease me a little bit and think this way and talk about it, I'm actually going to step out and I'm going to make that move, maybe gradually. That's where I say, even with the issue of Jesus Christ, I have a big problem discarding Jesus Christ. I'm a member of a board called Ex-Christians or something like that on Facebook. And they talk about, I see some of the people in there, I just go, you know what? I don't think you were ever a believer. I think you were somebody who was maybe forced to be in the church or forced to believe something, or you just did that your whole life, because you don't talk like somebody who's ever struggled with the fact that you say, once I believed this with all my heart and now I don't. And that's where I think people with religion, especially Christianity, I see it. They live it on Sundays. And then when Sunday's passed and the sermon's over, and you go home, the week proceeds and everything that was mentioned on Sunday morning is gone by Sunday afternoon. Living the Christian life was never something that they ever did. It was something that was a form of religion that they followed. For me, that's not what it was. And maybe for some of you too. It wasn't just following a form of religion. I believed this with all my heart. That is where I was. And so, turning my back, feeling like at times I abandon it. There are still the times where I think, am I just pissed at God for something? And so I'm going to go, I'm just going to do this anyway. Well, does that mean I truly believed what I said I believed before? If I'm so easily able to just go, I'm pissed at God, so I'm going to do something different. Or, I'm just going to do something different, blank. I don't even have to be pissed about it. So those thoughts go through your head. Matt says, yes, unfortunately, many of those people shake your hands on Sunday and stick a knife in your back on Monday. That's right. They'll shake your hand. They go, and they'll gossip with each other. A lot of gossip in the church. A lot of adultery in the church. I mentioned this to you once before. My old pastor, Parson Larson, said, Scotty, he says, when I'm standing up there Sunday morning and I'm talking and I see the faces out there, He says, you wouldn't believe the number of people that I'm looking at in our congregation that are in adulterous affairs or breaking up their marriages or having this problem or that problem. And of course, he didn't reveal any of that to me. It's not my business. But that's where he said, our church is in the business of helping people heal. And that's why that has such a strong, firm memory in my past, was that church. So, Mr. Smith, he went to church most every single Saturday, but when he died, he went to hell for what he did on Monday. You know, Mike Yehudi, there it is. And so, these are the things I struggle with. So when I talk about these, know that, am I convinced this is all true? No. I'm still feeling it out. I'm still working my way through it. I'm still trying to understand these things. That's why I'm talking about tenets of faith and what the Christian church believes versus how the pagan might respond to it. And Matt Finn, you're absolutely right. It is a shame what humanity has done to spirituality. I agree. Hey, Morgan Snow. Good to see you. Welcome. And so tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about sin and salvation, about good and evil. One thing I'll tell you right off the bat, I have more people that in their minds they try to equate God and a Satan. Satan, the devil, Lucifer. He's there to trip us up and pull us, the yin and the yang, the good and the evil, the dark and the light, the sin and the salvation. When in fact, Lucifer was not an equal to God. And if Lucifer indeed did become Satan, he wasn't an equal to God. He was a created being. So we were taught in seminary. He was created. He was an archangel that was created. Now, I happened to, when I started writing the book on the Nephilim, I went a different path of that. And I said, it looks to me like whoever the character was that became Lucifer, the Garden of Eden character, was one of the Elohim, one of the God among many gods, a sub-god, not an archangel. So it's interesting stuff when you start looking at that stuff. Hey, Iowa X. Yeah, we called. You're a little late. Like a half an hour late, brother. But I'm happy to have you here. So, in looking at this whole thing about sin and salvation, sin is often understood as the defining feature of the Christian life. Sin is the defining feature. How can that be? Because everything that you enjoy by the way of salvation comes because there was original sin. So we are taught. If you look at a Calvinistic view, everyone is totally corrupted by sin and doomed to hell from birth, and only Jesus' sacrifice on the cross can redeem a few souls from this fate. John Calvin was a big promoter of the elect, meaning that God knows ahead of time and has already predestined who is to be saved from hell. And so that's a Calvinistic view, almost a fatalistic view, if you will. There's an old joke. It's about Calvinism, which could be applied. Why do Calvinists shag standing up? Because wait. I may have mixed that up. Why won't Calvinists shag standing up? Because they think it might lead to dancing. You know, there you go. So a very strict way of looking at things. So this gloomy view has been rejected by a lot of people. And in pagan circles, the rejection of this view has led to many believing that there is no such thing as sin or original sin or evil. And some Christians have in turn accused paganism of being out of touch with the world today, way out of touch with God today. I've got a thought formulating. I want to elucidate, expand on this just a little bit. By rejecting a point like this in personal faith, does that mean the point is erroneous? Or we're just rejecting, accepting that as truth? That's one of the, not a fear. It's not like, oh no, fear. Oh. No, it's a fear of making the mistake of saying, am I just doing things because I want them to be different and I'm rejecting that? What if it's true? If I reject it, it could still be true. I'm just saying for myself, I'm not accepting that, so I'm going a different path. That's where once you've been inculcated into a certain way of thinking spiritually or religiously, it's very hard to change that way. So theologically speaking, issues of evil and sin are known as theodicy. Excuse me. Theodicy. Theodicy. The classic problem of theodicy is, if God is good, why do bad things happen? That's a valid question, I think. Now, you can come up with a lot of theological answers for that. The answer or answers to this question inform belief systems around the globe. Answers within Christianity typically start with this framework that's found in the book of Genesis, the Garden of Eden story. And in essence, people were created good by God, then given the free will to make choices. And we chose badly. We, corporately, Adam and Eve, chose badly. And as a result, things have been messed up ever since, according to biblical theology. So within the Jewish tradition, the way to rectify this error was to follow the Torah, the law, the teaching of God given to the people through the prophets. There must be nothing greater than the temple, nothing firmer than God's law. Jehovah, show me something purer than creeds. So on, the way the song goes. Within Christianity, the way to rectify this error was to dedicate oneself physically, spiritually, to follow Jesus' teachings. And over time, this evolved into the atonement theories that we already talked about when we talked about Jesus. Yes, small child, what may I do for you? Oh, such beautiful hair. All right, let's share that with everybody since you're here. Look at that. You know what I said about Mom's hair? She's got the same hair. Look at that. Let's see the back. Oh, so silky, so beautiful. Very nice. A big, thick mane of hair. Very nice, sweetheart. She was out, we were watering Mom's gardens tonight. Not a euphemism. And she had the sprinkler going, so it's hot outside here. It's hot and really humid. Almost oppressive feeling heat when you walk outside, like walking into an oven. But she was running through the sprinkler, so she got all wet. Is that what you did? You ran through the sprinkler tonight? Was it good? Was it refreshing? Did it make you feel good? I saw
Tyler.
You saw Tyler running through a sprinkler?
No. The other Tyler. Emily's boyfriend Tyler, Dad.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I'm going to go on with the show here, okay? Just thought we'd say hi, Rowan. Glad to have you home. So,
what did you do with my clay that was outside?
Can you ask me when I'm done with radio? That's the kind of stuff you can't ask me while I'm on the show.
Now.
I did nothing with it. It's sitting on the shelf out there, on the baker's rack out on the front deck.
I looked already.
So, there you go, folks. Barbie D says, you've got beautiful hair. Hillary, you've got beautiful hair, she says. And you do. Okay, I'm going to kiss you now. I'm going to kiss your cheeks all over your face.
I'm leaving.
That's how I get rid of her. All right. So, Uncle Dave says, hey, Roro. So, cutie pies indeed. So, back on topic. Within Christianity, this whole idea of sin is evolved into atonement theories that we discussed with Jesus. In paganism, however, historically, bad things happened because the gods were displeased. And so the way to rectify the situation was to propitiate the gods with sacrifice. And sometimes this took the form of offering at the shrine or the temple with the Jews. From a few grains of rice to a human sacrifice, which the Jews never did, so far as we know, depending on how bad the situation was. And so not all pagan religions practiced human sacrifice, and those who did, we're talking more ancient times, of course. It was usually rare and reserved for the direst of situation, like years in a row of drought or something like that. Or your honored enemies. We're going to wine you and dine you, keep you under lock and key, then burn you in a wicker man. Another explanation was that bad things like war were really the gods using humanity as their tools. Using humanity as their tools. And there's a place in the Bible where you see this more starkly than anywhere else. And I thought, that doesn't sound like Judeo-Christian. Well, at the time it was written Judeo-religion or spirituality. The gods using humans for things. Whichever god won was obviously the most powerful and thus should be worshipped. And this led to much of the combining of gods that happened in the ancient world when the Romans conquered Greece. The Greek gods got a makeover for an overly simplified example. The book of Job, you see at the very end, we all know of the trials of Job, all the stuff that he went through. Remember how that all started in the story of Job, which is, by the way, chronologically the oldest book in the Old Testament, the book of Job. This is pre-Judaism, was when this was written. There was no temple. This is pre-Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, pre-Moses. And in that book, what started the whole ball rolling for Job to have all this devastation take place in his life? It says in the Hebrew that the Satan, article before his name, the Satan, came into the courts of heaven and approached Elohim, the God, and said, "What about this servant of yours, Job? He only worships you because you've given him a good life. I will challenge you to a test. Take away everything he has and see if he will not curse your name." What did God say? God said, "You're on." They were using Job as a tool for, in a sense, a wager to see who is the more powerful. That's at least one way to interpret that. If you interpret it in sync with many other religions of the day, that's what that would have meant. So modern day pagans often downplay evil, or evil if you wish, as a whole, in part due to the overemphasis on it by fundamentalism. So it's a reaction to fundamentalism. And you know what? Nothing you believe or adhere to and believe as truth should be as a result of a reaction to someone else. It should be something you believe in your heart. That's why I say I can't get just pissed at the church, so I'm going to believe something different now. Nah. I want to believe something because I know it's better. I know it's true. I know it means something. So, Teresa's got to go? Oh, you got to go. You'll be listening. I know it's naughty or nice, so behave yourselves. I missed something, so there you go. So, in paganism, it's a reaction to the fundamentalism. And in part because the modern form of the religion has been more concentrated with the individual or small groups. Direct connection. I hear my phone ringing. I don't know what's going on. Oh, no, it's Rainey's computer over there. I thought my children had it, and Rainey said she was going to call the kids. That might be, they're probably calling her. So, if evil or sin is discussed, it's something that's been more connected and more concerned with the individual or small group's direct connection to the divine. If it's discussed, it's often in the guise of karma, a concept that's borrowed from the Eastern religions. Is it borrowed or does it actually exist? Hey, we like what the Eastern religions do, and let's bring it over and use it in ours. Or maybe they were right, and we didn't get that part right. See what I mean by that? Don't just change your religion or your spirituality because you want something different. Even Paul in the New Testament, whatever you think of him, wrote that he says there's going to be times where people turn away from God because their ears are tickling for something better. So, using karma as a theological concept implies a worldview that many pagans might not agree with, as far as Christo-Paganism is concerned. As Christo-Pagans, some attempt to address the disharmony between both religions on this topic, and it has to be made. And I don't believe that this is a final statement on the topic. The question of evil has been tackled unsuccessfully by far greater minds than mine. That's to be sure. But as a starting point, here goes. Here is the traditional Christian understanding of sin and evil. The traditional Christian understanding has changed all down through the centuries. But the primary pieces of God creating the world good and humans misusing their free will, and Jesus is the one who can save us from our own folly, have remained fairly constant for the last 2,000 years. What has changed the most is the idea of sin and evil and what they mean for the individual person. Modern fundamentalism likes to define sin, let's use quote unquote air quotes on that, likes to define sin as the opposite of belief, by which they mean adherence to a specific code of conduct that varies by denomination, but always looks like people different from us, is what that looks like. Sinners, according to this definition, are all damned to eternal suffering, and the only hope of avoiding this fate is to adhere to the beliefs and the code of conduct of the group. An anonymous quote sums this up very nicely. It says, quote, "In church, I learned that God loved us and that we were all evil and going to hell. And I learned that sex was nasty and dirty and wrong and should be saved for someone special." End quote. Now, that might not be an accurate thought in there, but that was what somebody quoted. I learned that sin and evil sent you to hell, and that sex was bad and wrong and dirty. And you gotta save it for someone special. I'll be evil and dirty and nasty with my sex, only with someone special. Was the idea there. So this insane God is a common view still today. If you go out there, just go out, if you're in America or Western civilization, go out and find out how people think about this. It's a common view, and with this presented as the Christian view, it's no wonder that so many people reject it. And this seems to be a straw man, but in fact, the reason many mainline churches are dying is that they reject this presentation of God, yet have not found a compelling theology of their own to explain good and evil. Fundamentalism is very clearly about who is in the in group and who's in the out group. So for many people needing security, this is a compelling way of life. It gives them a secure answer. I know that I am a sinner. I remember when I was 11 years old and I became a born-again Christian in the Baptist church. When they took me through the little prayer, I had to acknowledge that I had sinned against God and that I was a sinner, born in sin, living in sin, and that I had to accept Jesus as my Savior because he was the one who became the atoning propitiatory act, that Redeemer, because of my sin, and would save my soul. Then suddenly I'm not going to hell anymore, I'm going to heaven. So it's about who was in the in-group, who's in the out-group. Its primary downfall, this way of thinking, is not in the clarity of the system, but in the fact that any fundamentalism rejects the billions of people on the planet that do not follow the same religious beliefs or the right beliefs, thus bringing people to worship a loving God that condemns billions of people for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, there's a soft version of this fundamentalism that says if people never hear about Jesus, that they're only judged for what they did know. But the people who had a chance to have Jesus and rejected him are damned to eternal hellfire. And I don't mock this. I'm just saying this is what's believed. I believed these very things. Given that these churches are involved in missionary efforts, it seems like they want to offer Jesus so more people can be damned. I used to look at it the different way around. We wanted to see more people saved, born again, coming to God, knowing Jesus. And within this theology, there's a near dualism which personifies evil in Satan, the adversary of God, locked in an eternal power struggle with God the Father. And while God will eventually win, and Satan knows it, he's still fighting his good fight. And in fact, the only way for God to win may very well be the destruction of all creation. And so it's an odd theology that I can't reconcile with the idea of God as unconditional love, and as such cannot accept. Now, of course, in our theology classes, we were taught that God is not a God of unconditional love. God is a God that sees you through the filter of his Son, who paid the price for our sin nature. You're right, Michelle, there's always duality. And it's an odd theology. I can't reconcile it. It is, however, a prevailing understanding of Christian theology today, even if it's not what most Christians actually believe in their heart of hearts, because if they did, they would live differently. If you really, that's a gauge of whether or not you really believe what you say you believe. Do you live it? Is it real for you on Monday morning if you attend a Christian church? Is it still real on Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? By Saturday, are you mired in the mucky tar of your sin nature? Or do you not even regard it until you go back to church on Sunday? More communion, more whatever. If you truly believe what you say you believe spiritually, you live it. It is part of who you are. It's not like, oh, I forgot. Oh, God, forgive me. Whatever. I stole that candy bar from the store. I shouldn't have done that. I'm going to hell now. Whatever. So the traditional pagan understanding of all of this is that many times pagans haven't had to deal with the subject at all, seeing evil not as an institutional or corporate thing, but as an individual problem. Evil is an individual's problem, not a corporate, humanity-wide problem. And pagans agree that actions have consequences, and usually, though not always, they ascribe to the idea that what you do either A, comes back to you in this life, or B, stains your soul as bad karma and you come back as a frog or something. I don't know what it is. Reincarnation. That's more Eastern stuff. How the accounting of karma is done is not normally defined. It's assumed to be a law of nature, much like gravity. I've told people at times, I've said, may you suffer the bitch slapping of karma the same way I've had to do when I make mistakes. That's somebody I'm pissed at. I don't wish you ill. I just wish you the joy of learning about how karma can bitch slap you when you've done somebody else wrong. So keep my soul clean that way. I wish you the joy of learning this experience, of going on to that next step of wisdom. So unlike the original Eastern religions who developed these ideas of reincarnation, pagans don't generally view this world as illusion or as a negative, meaning there's an inherent theological confusion when borrowing the ideas of karma. In Hinduism, its associated religions like Jainism, Buddhism, etc., the world is seen as a negative, although compelling. It's a compelling place to be escaped. You have to get out of it to escape this cycle. The point of religion is to purify the mind and the soul so as to escape the world and any future reincarnations. This negative actions trap the soul in the cycle of reincarnations. You have to keep living it over until you get it right, forcing a return to the negative world. So if pagans believe that the world is positive, it seems odd to follow any idea of karma at all. And regarding this whole thing of reincarnation and souls, I've made mention of this before, but I want to see what you think right now. This idea of returning souls, of getting it right, of going back and doing it over, of souls in their pre-carnate state, determining what kind of life they're going to live this next life. I want to ask, did Hitler, is he actually a good soul that chose a life of evil? Will he come back now as someone else? Will he be evil again? Or will he say, instead of being a murderer of millions of Jews and homosexuals and gypsies and all the people lumped in together that were victims of the Holocaust, I'm going to come back this time and be a great emancipator, a great savior to people. Can he make that choice? I'm going to come back and be a mechanic. I'm going to come back and be a chef because I want to bake good things for people. I want to live a quiet life this time. Can that happen? Can Hitler be somebody who has a soul that just made a choice for one life and now he's going to choose a different life? We don't think about that in those terms, do we? Was Hitler evil? Was he possessed by evil? These are good questions. These are interesting questions to me anyway. Now, some pagans have a more Celtic view of this all, that the soul rests between incarnations, and that the goal of life is for the soul to learn certain things. Sin is thus failing to learn the right things and committing negative actions again and again and again. And in any view of reincarnation, the goal is for the soul to eventually ascend beyond physical incarnations. That's the goal. So, what do you think of that stuff? My old God spoke. My old godchild. Oh, your godchild. Sorry, Steve. I thought your old godchild. Your godchild, got it, spoke German before he was able to speak English. And no one in the family spoke German. That's interesting. We've heard cases of that kind of thing over and over again. Heard lots of stories of that kind of thing. Delaney says that Adolf was bullied and his spirit was damaged. That's interesting. And I look at that and I go, that makes sense. But how do we know that? That's the big question. Where do we get this stuff revealed to us? Teresa said, I think that's part of the free will argument, Scotty. And I think you might be right there as well. It's free will. But is there free will in the pre-life? And then you live it in this life? And then you go back and you go, whew, not doing that again. I'm going to come back as something else. Or does the soul get damaged? Can you permanently damage your soul by the theology, if you will, of reincarnation? Can you permanently damage your soul in this life so that you can't come back good or choose something better? Hey, Celtic Wolf. Always late, but love the content. Oh, and still sexy babies. That's to all of us. Thank you. We'll take that moniker. Thank you very much, Celtic Wolf. Glad you enjoy the shows. You'd probably be somebody who could, by your name anyway, could be somebody who might be able to contribute to some of this. Arcturan Starchild says, no matter how many times you return. It's interesting. My man is a soul collector. I was once told myself by a couple of different mediums that I had lived over 35 different lives in my past, 40, something like that. That's interesting, too. Ryan Gale. If God gives you lemons, you find a new God. Boom. There it is. What if the God of lemons is the real God, though? What do you do? So, Teresa makes a good point. Well, I think the damage is done when you fail the lesson to be learned, and you have to keep learning it over and over. Then I think you're trapped in the never-ending cycle. So would somebody like a Hitler have to come back to learn the lesson again? That's interesting. This is all interesting stuff that it's highly subjective because we really don't know how to find out for sure. And this is why we have religion. All religion defined is mankind, humanity trying to reach for God. Whatever form God is to them, or goddess. So the arguments against blending the Christian and pagan understandings are there. And the differences between these views can be really stark. Fundamentalism says, if you're not like me, fundamentalist, you're damned in some way. And this is true of every kind of fundamentalism, whether pagan, Christian, Muslim, or anything else. While a more liberal, and I'm not talking politically liberal, I'm talking about a liberal understanding, more open understanding, says that your actions harm your soul and your connection to the divine and to other people. Arguments against are basically from the conservative camps. Again, not politically. Conservative religious camps, fundamentalist camps, which see no harmony possible between faiths at all whatsoever, period. And so whether extreme pagans who insist that there's no such thing as sin or evil, or extreme Christians who believe that you've not been initiated into their exact type of Christianity, you're damned to hell. Both extremes make conversation virtually impossible. You believe my way, or I'm either going to try to get you saved, or I'm not going to communicate with you. I'm not going to fellowship with you. And so in dealing with these extremes, Christo-pagans face the dilemma of whether or not to initiate a conversation at all. And certainly when confronted by these people, it might very well be better to avoid a conversation which is going to lead to conflict. Sometimes extremists can be talked to and discussed with on a rational level. But often these people have invested their self-worth. There is the key. Fundamentalists have invested their self-worth in the righteousness and the rightness of their belief system within their group. And such that for the group to be flawed would mean that they would have to believe they were a bad person. And it's a twisted logic that is sad and really hard to overcome. That's why I talk about this whole inculcation mode that we get into. So, Celtic Wolf says, BS, Scotty. LOL, just claim that you know. You might be right, Celtic Wolf. So, Dave Potter says, ask me about this next time. Ask me about this next time. I'm over. It's far too complicated to put here in the chat. Oh, okay. Gotcha, Dave. I get it. Oh, kindly click off then. Oh, I missed that. I don't know what that was all about. Boring. What's boring? Celtic Wolf, what's boring to you? Is this boring to you? Are you, by saying it's boring, wouldn't you be caught in the us versus them mode? That you might know something. If you know something better that's not boring, let us know. Or did I misread what you meant? So, where'd Audrey go? Let's see what Audrey said. Go, Audrey, go, you said? What's Audrey up to? I didn't even see her come into the room. Hey, Audrey, if you're out there. Religion is the ritualization of ideas and teachings and the restructuring of them into an organizational structure for control purposes, says Teresa. I agree. Oops, click that on. Hey, Susie. Hugs, kisses, hugs, kisses, hugs, kisses. There you go. So, Celtic Wolf says, you're in denial. Who's in denial? Me? Everybody else? Denial about what? Am I in denial about what I believe, you mean? And you might mean that in a positive way. It's not sure what you're getting at. So, Dave's not here. Dave Potter's here, I think, unless he had to get out of the room for some reason. So, one possibility is that they're speaking a different language from those for whom there can be only one single path. Those who try to blend religious traditions have already come away from the idea that there's only one way to experience faith, whether it's fundamental Christian, paganism. For the sake of these discussions we're having, let's just stick to those two. In essence, they're speaking a different language from those from whom there can only be a single path. So one possibility for blending these understandings starts with going back to the discussions we had about Jesus, the different approaches to looking at Jesus. Sin was defined there as separation from the divine and a tragedy of failing to live up to our potential. Hamartia, or missing the mark in Greek, if you remember when we hit on that. Feelings of separation can be explained in many ways, but in part, it comes from the knowledge that we're different from anyone else. Fear of pain, fear of abandonment, fear of not being loved often forms a protective barrier around these feelings of separation. Shame, which is placed on persons for their failures, whether real or perceived, also perpetuates the separation and the loneliness, since shame usually includes shunning. Fear and shame are negative emotions. They're placed on us by society, propagated by ourselves and to others. We become scared of doing the wrong thing. Remember, I talked about it at the very beginning of this tonight. that fear of doing the wrong thing, and we place shame on ourselves and fear on ourselves. We become scared of doing the wrong thing, and as a result, we fixate on our behavior, and we try to shame others into being like us so we can have the security of knowing that we're right. Or, because we fear being abandoned by the group, we shame ourselves into behaving as the group wishes, even if it violates who we know we are. And this is where I was for so many years. And so this happens to children at home and in school, and it continues into our adult religious lives. And it's already after 10 o'clock. As Christo-Pagans, if we believe, we meld these faiths together, and we believe that Jesus has come as an avatara of God, if we believe that the Mother Spirit is always in us and with us, then we can be saved from fear and shame. We no longer need to fear being alone, for God is with us. In fact, it's inseparable from us. We no longer need to be ashamed, for God will always offer us a chance to make the best out of the situation. Yep, there really might be negative consequences for our actions, but in each and every choice, God will be with us, luring us to the best possible outcome. We have the free will to indulge our fear and shame, but also the free will to make the right choices. We know what's right. We know what's the right choice if it leads to an increase of love for God, for ourselves and for others. We know it's the wrong choice if it leads to hate, to suffering, to fear, to shame, to killing in some instances over the centuries. And in this theology, there isn't a hard and fast code to abide by. The spiritual practitioner must spend a lot of time cultivating their conscience and their connection to God if they're to make the best choices in any given situation. It's a philosophy of life on top of a theology. It's like that song, I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. I'm not enslaved to fear. It doesn't mean I don't have my fears, my doubts, but I'm not enslaved to it anymore. Celtic Wolf says, and he sings. I love to sing. I hope you love to sing too. Celtic Wolf, are you somebody I know outside the chat room? I don't recognize who you are. If you were in here before as Celtic Wolf, and you told me at one point, I don't know who you are anymore. It's gone from me. But are you somebody I know? So, do you know me personally? Aegean? Aegean. I don't know who that is. If that's a name. Or is it a typo? Let's see. Yes, Bin Basned. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know what that is. So, anyway. Teresa says, exactly, Scotty. You and I were in the same boat. Difference now. For me, he said, I trust my own intuition. There it is. So there you go. We got more to speak about when it comes to this whole thing of good and evil, sin and salvation, and so on. And Soul Tribe, says Celtic Wolf. Okay. I'm not sure where you're going with all that. I hope you're enjoying this, though, Celtic Wolf. I'm only addressing you because I wasn't sure. Oh, been banned. Oh, so Celtic Wolf was banned. If you're from Ireland, then I probably know who you are. So, welcome. Well, as long as you behave, you're welcome here. So, there you go, folks. That's what we got for tonight. It's 10:10. Celtic Wolf says, oh my God, Jesus is not in the Bible. Wow. Jesus is not in the Bible. Wow. I would say, wow, yeah, he is. You might disagree with the picture of Jesus presented there, but yeah, Jesus is in the Bible. So I would have to disagree with you on that. So, and I love chats. I love discussions. I love dialogue here during the show, as long as you're respectful to everybody. Be respectful, and you get to remain here. Kisses, hugs, kisses, hugs, kisses, hugs. Thank you, Barbie D. Let's think about this stuff. Corey Blake, you are as engaged as you need to be and as you can be every time you're here. I appreciate your presence here. I'm glad you're here. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. It's been a long day over here, and going to take my leave of you. 23 hours from now, after a 23-hour break, we're going to be right back. So you guys sit tight. Remember, live long and prosper.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.